Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. Sorry about the unintentional hiatus I've been on. I will have a bit more information about that at the back end of the video. But I wanted to kind of just get into the meat of the video here, which is a semi-improvised video essay I would like to call I Dream of a Fully Funded Society. I dream of a fully funded society where our infrastructure was top of the line and we didn't have bridges that are in dangerous states of disrepair, horrible potholes that ruin our vehicles and make driving dangerous. I dream of a fully funded society where everyone had freedom of movement and there was a fully funded public transit system that a person could actually reasonably use to get around and not have to have a car in almost all parts of this country. I dream of a fully funded society where we have no hospital deserts, where we have top of line hospital care and there aren't concerns about budgetary cuts. I dream of a fully funded society where our teachers were appropriately paid, our school facilities were appropriately maintained, and all children, no matter where they live and who their families are, had access to a top of the line education. I dream of a fully funded society where disabled people had full access to all recreational opportunities that everyone else does. I dream of a fully funded society where the IRS is fully funded and we get back well more than every dollar we put in from them actually, finding people who are cheating on their taxes and making them pay their full share. I dream of a fully funded society where laws were enforced in an equitable way and parking tickets and speeding tickets and the like weren't used to fund local municipalities, thus, giving them a reason to unequally enforce the law whenever they need money. I dream of a fully funded society where it was encouraged to vote and all of our voting apparatuses were fully funded and well run, and there wasn't places where there were horrible lines because people couldn't get in and vote. And I dream of a fully funded society where higher education and vocational school and trade school is a viable option for everybody, and they can follow what they believe is best for their lives, whether it be traditional college or some other path, but that they can get the skills to be able to make a living in our changing economy. The jobs that existed when I was growing up, they aren't existent anymore. And we don't necessarily know exactly how it's changing, but there's certain fields that are going to be way more important going forward than they've been in the past. And we need to make it possible for people to actually pursue careers in those fields. Apologize for that. I dream of a fully funded society where housing programs were not underfunded, that people who were approved for housing services were able to get them in a timely manner. I dream of a fully funded society where immigration was actually possible as a legal pathway, and that people who were coming in as asylum seekers wouldn't have to wait some absurd amount of time to be processed, so that we can make sure that we do have a standardized process for immigration that actually will work instead of this broken claptrap that we're stuck with now. I dream of a fully funded society where all social workers were well paid and had all the resources they needed to take care of the vulnerable people who they devote their lives to serving. I wish we lived in a place that prioritized taking care of the vulnerable. Being as I am Christian, that is sort of important to me. I dream of a fully funded society where the law was enforced and wage theft was seen as much of a crime as shoplifting, at least, come on. And other systematic crimes like that, where landlords fail to provide a safe housing, where business owners fail to provide a safe working environment, where corporations fail to manage environmental regulations appropriately. I dream of a fully funded society where all those regulations were enforced, and that we enforce the laws that we have on the books. I dream of a fully funded society where nutrition programs always had the funding they need, where school lunches and breakfasts, for that matter, are just free. Who cares what the reason why a kid may need that is? If they need food, we should feed them. Like, they're children. They have no control over who their parents are or what their situation is. We should just feed them. I dream of a fully funded society where children could get education in things like the arts, music, theater, band, orchestra, all of the things that are the first thing on the chopping block when the school board needs to make some cuts, right? I dream of a fully funded society where skilled children always had the best and most up-to-date textbooks and best resources in their schools, and where all programs for children and families were funded to the maximum amount so that families had some support and it wasn't so difficult to raise a family in this country. I, a childless woman, still know it's important for the next generation, because at some point my generation will be elderly, and it's in everyone's best interest to make sure that the next generation is raised with all of the support it needs. I dream of a fully funded society where mental health emergencies were given as much consideration as any other health emergency, like a heart attack or a stroke. I dream of a fully funded society in which we all live without so much stress, wondering how we're going to find funding for the scientific grant or PBS or whatever small insignificant program that is really not much of the national budget at all, but we always have to fight for every time there's a budgetary cycle. And there's always an attempt to sneak away to underfund those programs in order to make them fail. I dream of these things. And they don't seem like unreasonable things on some level. And then on some level, they seem like incredibly radical things. And it's surprising to me when I think about that. How unthinkable fully funding certain parts of our society has become. How normalized it has become for us to accept that even if a law is written that says that we're supposed to have this right or this service or this access to this whatever, that we'll accept it being cripplingly underfunded and just accept that's the way it's got to be. They've decided to do budget cuts, more austerity, more of that, blah, blah, blah. I always felt like I had no problem paying my taxes. Well, I haven't been working for the last couple of years, so I guess this is maybe a little out of my wheelhouse now. But I always felt like happy to pay my taxes because I know that there are a lot of benefits of living in this society. You know, I liked having paved roads and bridges and sidewalks and libraries and, oh, that's another one. I dream of a society where we fully fund our libraries. I like a lot of those benefits. But a lot of the money that I paid as taxes didn't go to things like that. It went to corporate subsidies. It went to contractors from the military who I paid through my taxes to do horrible things to people who are innocent overseas. And that's upsetting, you know? I don't know why it was that we got so blind to what was happening in Afghanistan and allowed that to go on for so long without a strong reaction. Maybe it's because the people of Afghanistan didn't have access to smartphones, couldn't put those videos out for us to see on social media the way that the people of Gaza can. I'm glad, though, that people do care about what's happening in Gaza. I'm glad people do care about what's going on in Ukraine. I don't want my tax money to go to that. I want my tax money to go to Ukraine, to be clear. I don't want my tax money to go to bombing Gaza, though. I don't know what's going to happen on Election Day, just a couple of days from now. I don't. I'm terrified. I'm optimistic and I'm terrified at the same time. The society that I dream of is only even marginally possible if we can keep Trump out of the White House. If he goes back, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. One thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is how committed to the status quo our country is. I didn't really understand that. I think it's hard because we know that we live in our own bubbles. You know, if you're a Harris voter, probably a lot of the people you know are Harris voters. And if you're a Trump voter, probably a lot of the people you know are Trump voters. And if you're smart, then you know that is true and know that's why, you know, it's not going to be a slam dunk election. Now, I think that it's quite possible that there are people, especially on Trump's side, who don't realize that. So we might be in a bit of trouble there. But when we focus on that, you know, those two sort of opposing bubbles, as it were, we forget there's an even bigger bubble out there, and it's the people who just don't care. They don't care enough to vote. Or if they do, they don't care enough to pay attention to what's going on, and so their vote is maybe not the most informed, you know. And it's kind of baffling to me to think about that. But I was watching the nightly news with my dad the other night, and it was the night that um, Biden had made his like gaffe about garbage or whatever as a response to the racist stuff that was said at Trump's rally. And I was just so infuriated that that was the top story on the evening news, like just a few days before we vote. They think that's the most important thing that they need to be telling us about. What somebody who isn't running for president said. Okay. I think that's probably not that important. And it made me literally, I got so mad. I ran out of the room, went out on the back porch and screamed. I mean, I literally did. Because it just shows me how much the ownership class, the one that directs, you know, corporate interests that own the news and whatnot, how committed they are to maintaining this idea that the status quo is, you know, going to be maintained no matter what. Like, they need to make it seem like whoever wins the election, and not just, in a sense of who wins the presidential election, but also who wins all the down ballot elections too. Like, they want to make it seem like either way, people will be able to just go about their business and not pay attention and never have to pay attention. And I feel like we have been so ill-served by legacy media. You know, these news companies or these broadcasters are supposed to give a half hour, 1/2 hour a night, 1/2 hour a night to the nation to inform us. And how much of that half hour is ads? And how much of that half hour, even if it's not explicitly an ad, is just them talking about somebody's new book, or, hyping up something related to something else on their TV channel, or, fluff. I feel like if they're going to have news, there should be non-profit news. Like, no matter what the ratings are, you gotta have this half hour and just let people, no ads. Just give us a half hour every night of just news that's not driven by corporate interests. That would never happen, but it would be nice, wouldn't it? My little goddaughter, she's 12. She's 7th grader. She lives in rural Pennsylvania, and she's like really scared because she knows that Trump is bad, and she knows why. And she knows how dangerous it is for women, especially, for him to be back in office. And all of her little friends are like pro-Trump. And I'm like, well, that's probably just because that's what they hear at home. I'm sure a lot of them grow up in households where they watch Fox News all the time, or the parents say this or that or whatever. But from her perspective, everyone she knows around her, all of her little friends, are voting, their parents are voting for Trump. So in her little bubble, it's really easy for people in that community to mistakenly believe that everyone in the United States, or every real American, thinks the way they do. It's just not true, I mean, my goddaughter is an example of that herself. She doesn't think the same way they do, and that's fine. I can't believe that my poor little 7th grade goddaughter has to, worry about what her friends will think or say because their Trump or family members have rubbed off on them. I mean, it's just, can you imagine how terrifying it must be for her? And for all the kids growing up right now who just, they don't know how abnormal this is. But I fear that there are a lot of adults who similarly don't understand how abnormal this is. And those are the people that I think America has failed the most. Because for generations, it took us generations to get here. For generations, we had politicians who decided that they wanted to pick their voters instead of have their voters pick them. They wanted to literally choose who got to vote and make sure it was the right people. And this decades long project is working for them. They made the vast majority of the population apathetic and not care. And that plays right into their interests. And my one hope is that after Roe was overturned, that maybe some of those people who were living their lives in a corporate-induced, government-induced, apathetic stupor were finally shocked out of it when they realized that there could be real upheaval to the status quo. Real, true upheaval to the status quo. That things that they took for granted, they could no longer take for granted. Especially so soon after the supply chain disruptions and the pandemic really showed us that there were things we took for granted that we definitely couldn't anymore. And so I hope that some of my brothers and sisters and siblings out there, my fellow Americans who have been so tired, so overworked, so overstressed, who've been doing everything they can, doing the best they can, and who have just not had the energy, the time to think about this, that they understand that this time we need them, that it's important, that it's not like it's been before, that he would not be the same. Donald Trump would not be the same this time around. The guardrails, such as they were, are gone. Anyone with any integrity is gone, long gone. The only people that are left are pro-authoritarian, who are happy to choose their voters, who are happy to disenfranchise everyone who they think might vote against their interests. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about the people they've worked with that are around them every day. Everyone is expendable because they all want to be able to inflict their will on this country. They want to preserve their place in the social hierarchy by pushing other people down. Well, heavy subject matter tonight. I did want to just say I've got some sort of mental block that's keeping me from making videos. It's a mental block that's keeping me from doing basically anything on my phone. I don't know why. So I don't know when I'll be making videos again. It might be that I've broken, the seal's broken, I'm back, and I'll be making videos on the regular starting tomorrow. Who knows? But if you want to make sure you don't miss the next time I put something out, since it is somewhat irregular and my videos aren't always or I guess probably ever, algorithmically friendly. I definitely would recommend subscribing. And, you know, it gives me a little ego boost if you do. So, I mean, side product. But, anyway, take care of yourselves, family members, for however long it is until I talk to you again. And, you know, vote. And if you know anyone who is unlikely to vote, see if you can get them to vote, offer to go with them, whatever, you know. If you can get a couple extra people out to the polls that weren't going to go, it can make a big difference. And, you know, broad scale. Because this is a numbers game, right? The ultimate popularity contest. Yay. I'm glad my life depends on it. All right. Take care of yourselves and see you whenever.